Philip, we are getting into this, talking about the relationship between women in their 30s and investing in the township property market. So what's going on there?
So I think firstly we need to differentiate, because what we call township here, I wouldn't call these areas townships. I think, and we've discussed previously, that if a property is bondable, it's valuable. It has value, even double sometimes if there is a bond.
Just to disturb you, so they're calling Ivy Park a township, according to...
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it that. I would call it, I think the banking industry is calling it township, but I think what we refer to as township is there's no title deed.
Okay.
This is what we, I think, call. So there's definitely a correlation between that, because if you look at the age group reflected, 30 to 39, it sort of shows you where the money is.
Okay.
And we just have to look to our employment equity kind of structures to see that's true. So if you look at who's more employable, or first in line for the job would be disabled black women. Last in line would be, able-bodied white people, or white men. So if you look at this trend that black women in their 30s are dominating the property market, it speaks back to our structure as a country. So and the fact that the sales are high in those areas, in fact 80% of all business done bonds in the first portion of the year have been for less than $1 million, and it's been in that same age bracket. So it shows me that these women are single, and they are obviously investing in property to create like a legacy kind of thing for their children. They're thinking wisely, investing in this commodity which is called property, so that they create longevity for their family.
So maybe let's look at the pros and cons of investing in the township market, and maybe for the benefit of our conversation, because we're seeing a different definition here. There are places like Protea Glen in Soweto, Ivy Park in Polokwane, calling that a township, but you have your what we call townships, like Oseshego and whatnot, and the villages where you wouldn't have like a title deed. So for this conversation, maybe you'd need to sort of like define for us what we will call a township property market, and the pros and cons of investing in that. So
yeah, let's call township, or let's call township the way the banking industry calls it, which means it's got a bond, and then we call rural, non-urban, which is the villages. So if we look at these areas, even you mentioned Shishegu and Ivy are very close to each other these days. Mahlakwa, Palu, in Polokwane, African Jewel, those kinds of areas. You've been finding significant growth in those areas. I mean, just to take you guys 10 years back, when I joined REMAX, I said we need to diversify and move into this area, because there's a lot of business we're missing out on, and we grew 40% in 1 month. Wow. Just by diversifying into that area. So yeah, that's definitely an up and coming trend, and I think we need perspective, because there's a lot of people in the market trying to sell their houses for $3 million. But I think that the market has a misperception about the size of the actual market. I mean, 1% of the population, which is about 6 million people, earn above 100K. Now 100K is what you need to buy a 3 million rand property. So you'll find that the vast majority of people are below 30 grand, let's say 25 to 45 grand, and that puts you in the bracket that you can afford a 1 million rand property. So I think definitely it's an area that we need to look at, because that's where the movement is, and when the movement's there, you'll also find the prices increase.
Yeah. And are there any important things that I should keep in mind while going into investing into a township?
Yeah, I think when we're buying to let, like as an investment, you've got to take into account what the rental yields are. So yes, you might be able to buy a property for less than a bar, but will you be able to cover it with rental of 7 or 8 grand, which you would get in town?
Good.
So yes, some people make good money, because you'll buy a house for 800K, you'll build 3 or 4 rooms at the back, you'll generate 8 grand rent from the rooms, and you call it 10 grand. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos from YouTubers actually investing in this area and making good returns. So it's really not a bad area to invest in. I think the formality of the rental market there that's where your risk lies. I mean, you'll probably find that these guys can disappear overnight, so your tenant base is not that sound, but you'll replace quickly when they don't pay. So you don't have 3, 4, 6 months where you're waiting for your rental. So all in all, I think it is basically where we should be focusing.
Okay, all right. We'll leave the conversation here for today, Philip. Thank you. That's broker and owner of REMAX, Philip Skuman.
Thanks, yeah.